Question number 3 for you then. Looking back at 2024, what were the best developments in our CX sector this year? Thinking about technology, cultural change, operations, regulatory, anything you can think of.
I think for me, the use of automation and AI to support agents. So, as we mentioned earlier, that seems to be where the groundswell has been in terms of progress. So, actually getting to that point where you're not reliant on, a team leader having to listen to a handful of calls per agent per month in order to assess where we are. That real-time ability, the ability to prompt and guide agents through a call and to do the best and right things for a customer. I think it's another sign of the industry coming of age.
I think, and I wouldn't often say this because it's rarely the most exciting thing that springs to mind. I think in regulatory terms, there's been a couple of interesting potential positives. One is Ofcom has finally got the telcos to start blocking spoofed UK numbers. So UK numbers, because much as we're all rightly dazzled by the potential of AI and automation and finally joining all our data up to deliver better customer service, a lot of people's real interactions with contact centers sadly are scammers calling them, and it's probably a subset of the consumer base, but they're really suffering. So something as simple as that, I think that's really important. There's the EU AI Act, which isn't really going to take effect for another sort of year or 18 months, but that will be impactful in terms of guiding organizations how to use AI. And I guess, as I said earlier, most people's conscious interaction with AI currently tends to be through CX and contact centers. Or customer interaction. An interesting challenge to a lot of business models is around the subscription economy. So Ofcom have implemented this one-click cancel for telco broadband contracts. The CMA has got some proposals which are sort of being paralleled in the US, or certainly were in the current under the current presidency, around again making subscriptions as easy to get out of as they are to get into. And in the US, it's about a year ago, I think Verizon got fined. No, it wasn't Verizon, it was somebody else. So back through
sorry,
on that
Verizon.
One. Yeah, not Verizon. Got fined $100 million for making it so difficult to get out of their telco contract. So it's very live. And I think for the last, 15 years, that subscription membership economy has been obviously very appealing to organizations. But there's perhaps be a little pain needs to be experienced in terms of sort of reorientating the power dynamic there and making it easier for consumers. I think in terms of developments in terms of technology, I would say the bleeding edge of AI, and certainly last week, and I was at Expo last week as you were, tend to get a bit overwhelmed with AI and what will soon be possible. But I think like all these things, you have to keep bringing it back to, well, in the here and now, what can AI deliver us? And, you are seeing real benefits. And some of them are still maybe the things that have been talked about pre-ChatGPT, that sort of transformational moment of a couple of years ago. But, if through the use of AI and automation, you can now start to monitor 100% of contacts and build up, a real insight into the dynamics of demand and interaction on every contact that's being handled. And that's a total game changer. And some people are there, some people are getting there. The price to do so is dropping like a stone. But as ever, it only matters if you can do something about it. You can monitor and produce reports about all your thousands of customer interactions every week, unless you can derive some insight and in the CX world kind of influence change at other points of the organization and at other points of the customer journey and start to influence the proposition, it's a bit meaningless. So I think there's some of those kind of fundamentals remain. And I think the other thing that is not, I can't honestly say it's from this year, but I think it's really from maybe 2021, 22, 23, and it's still percolating way through, is this kind of recognition of emotion, which almost flies in the face of this focus on technology. So, from the staff side, from the advisor side, there was the Great Resignation.
Yeah.
Some organizations, despite all the problems we're suffering, are still struggling to identify their ideal candidate, get them in and keep them in, partly because of the flip side of the Great Resignation is this wall of rage. And I very, very rarely talk to customer facing people who don't say, this remains to be a hard job, a harder job than it was. There's a lot of irascible, demanding consumers. And it's partly, I guess, because our self-serve world means the point at which you speak to a human being, you're typically either innately confused or have been confused or muddled or frustrated. You've been pushed, exactly. Rarely do you go, oh, I might call a call center today. And also, just things that societal, and unfortunately, most of us don't really have to handle with that on a day-to-day basis. But if you're frontline in a contact center, you're handling it, contact after contact after contact. And I think it's quite, organizationally, it's hard to manage both those things in parallel, to deliver a good customer experience, to be organizationally at a brand level, being empathetic and listen to people and understand their needs, whilst also doing the same for your frontline staff, which, you should do if you live up to most modern corporate standards, which is where we're here to do more than make a profit. But you also need to do, because people who don't stay in role very long, irrespective of what wonderful co-pilot type tools are assisting them, that's a real cost to your business, and it's a real cost to your brand and the customer experience you can deliver.
Absolutely.
So I don't think that's really changed. I think it's almost become settled. And if you are, and I don't, but if you're operationally delivering a customer experience function, you've almost got to now constantly balance that those very difficult challenges. And contact centers were always emotional places for various reasons, partly because they were full of people. But I feel like a lot of those are just some external emotions have been thrown into the pot as well, which means it's a hard job. And I guess final point, and I don't know if this is very meaningful. I think there was an economist, wasn't there, in the Sunday Times, who used to gauge the state of the economy by the number of skips that were outside houses being renovated in his no doubt rather fancy West London street. But when I went to Expo this year, I think it was a little bit smaller. I wouldn't swear to it, but I felt the height of the stands had diminished. And I'm sure 2 years ago, there were some incredibly high stands that you'd have to sort of navigate your way around. And I feel like the height has dropped down a little bit. And I think to some extent, I'm not dismissing AI's hype. That'd be naive. Its impact, we most of us certainly wouldn't begin to understand. But I think in our corner of the world, perhaps there's been a little bit of, okay, but what can we do with this? And I think that's probably all to the good. So maybe we might even be in a slightly more balanced place than we were 12 or 18 months ago. We'll see in 2025.
So I think I don't want to make this the AI show. And I've joked in talks as well, like, who hasn't been sold an AI solution in the last 5 minutes? But it feels like this has been the year when AI has moved from concept and some really beautiful presentations and videos from vendors to delivering tangible ROI. It feels like, in the past few years, it's been an arms race of what can we show people that you could potentially do? And now we're seeing real time benefits to businesses. So auto summarization has become the norm across UC. If you're a UC player that is not doing that, then you're already in trouble, I think. And in CC, it's becoming the norm as well. We're seeing AI-driven insights all over the place, and they're becoming more and more accessible. It's not just for top players in the market that are offering them. In fact, some of the smaller players are innovating in a way that some of the more established players just aren't looking at yet. So delivering results. I think that's been the thing, AI actually delivering results. And the more that grows, the better that's going to be for employees and businesses and ultimately customers moving forward.
I would go with the same topic about AI wrapped as technology in general. I feel like we're finally ready to embrace technology. Especially in contact centers, I see a lot of developments around using voice bots and chat bots much more than we were using the previous years. And I'm really excited because we're finally using people to do the more complicated stuff rather than use them for doing simple tasks that can be easily automated. So this is a brilliant change that has happened, and I'm excited for the future to see how we're going to get rid of the enter the information of the customer here or do the notes manually. So these are stuff that are currently shifting, I would say, in organizations. And also from readiness perspective, I feel like people are finally opening up to embrace technology.
That's it. You're done. End of video 3. You know what's happening in the CX landscape looking back at 2024. I want to thank Irina, Nev, Steve, and Chris for their input and their time over the last few weeks. I don't know if you noticed at the start of video 1, I recorded that on a few different days. Continuity nightmare with the outfits, but at least this has all been consistent to some degree. I don't know, the bobble moves around. But yeah, honestly, a really big heartfelt thank you to everyone that watches the content, that reads the newsletter on a fortnightly basis over on LinkedIn. It's been a labour of love for a couple of years, and I've really enjoyed making all the content for you. And like I said back in video 1, 2025, all more of the same, but plus working with some other content creators to bring their content into the CCCX update as well, so that you can really have one source you can go to every couple of weeks to find out the opinions, the news, the events, what's happening in our world, so that you can stay tuned in and be connected and find out what's going on, so that you know whether or not it's the right time to make a career move or not, what businesses are doing, what products are doing, what's happening in regulatory, what's happening in technology evolution, what's happening in AI. Everything in one place, not just via myself, because I'm no expert at all those things, but via a bunch of people that are all really invested in making this community a better place and a more informed and fun place as well. So once again, thank you for watching these videos. Merry Christmas. I wish each and every one of you a happy and healthy 2025, and I'll see you then.